So I finished the centre of my Christmas quilt, and I'm now going to do the border, and I've cut all of my pieces. So I've that wasn't meant to happen. So this is the border. It's a 6-inch strip, which is the length of that, and I'm going to starch it. Now the starching is actually really important in this process, because I'm going to do quite a lot of blanket stitching for the applique, and when you're blanket stitching, usually I would say put some kind of stabilizer, stitch and tear or something like that on the underneath, or sometimes I will actually do the stitching through the batting as well. But because this is a quilt rather than a wall hanging or a cushion or something like that, I want it to be soft. And also I found that what I'm going to hand quilt this afterwards, and I'm going to quilt around these shapes, and they will get more lift, and I'll explain what I mean by that in a minute. But I've just marked the centre, and I've marked the quarter sort of point, and then bring that in again, just so I've got a line up of where I'm going to put these pieces. And those, you see those marks take quite well on here. Okay, so the angel pattern that I've used, it's in the files on my Facebook group, Sewing Box Somerset group. You can only put files in group pages, so hence that's why it's a page. It's free to join though, so don't think you've got to sort of sign up for anything, but it's the only way I've found to make them easily accessible. And I'm gonna then line up, I've got my actual angel. This was from bunting originally actually, but the shape works really well because it's a nice easy one for blanket stitching around. The wings are just a heart cut in half. On the actual bunting I've used 2 hearts because they're kind of 3D, the bunting, but for this don't really need that. So, and the head is going to go about here. So where is one of my faces? Oh, this is a face from the bunting, but I'm not obviously going to use felt on a quilt that's going to get washed. I'm going to do these in fabric, but that's basically the face. So just using that to make sure that everything is in the right place. I'm also putting a heart in the center, which is here. So let me just get the backing off. So as I say, all of these have been bonder-webbed and cut out ready, and I've made sure that the angels are going, look, in different directions. I was going to put some writing, maybe words of a carol or like Hark the Herald Angels or something, but this is going to be for my granddaughter, and I don't think she's going to be bothered by that. So that's half, and that's kind of ready to go. And as I say, because I pressed that line, I'm not sure if you can see that clearly on the camera, but there is a line, so I can line up that heart in the center, I can line up that one, and I can put my angels, and then I can do a sort of measurement. And then once I've done that, all my other borders I can do exactly the same process. But what I normally do, and this is one that I've already stitched, I just lay the blank one over the top to line it up so that all the borders are equal, so I can just, you know, lay it on top and then press it. Okay, so don't feel you've got to kind of do that every time. Once you've done one, it kind of goes from there. So I'm just going to press that one down, so I can now move along and do the other angel and this end. So that one's done and ready, and as I say, the next one up, last one actually, because I've already done two, so I'll show you. I can lay them out and press them because I can see through where to put them. Here's the borders done, prepped, ready. So what I've then done is I have gone to the machine and blanket stitched around, and I do try and use a contrast because it looks so much nicer. And once it's blanket stitched around, the starch will help keep that nice and neat. I haven't, like, there's bits and pieces where I haven't blanket stitched it, and that's mainly because I know that's going to be hidden under the face. Okay, so but just double check that. I've used this sort of goldy colour, which is almost like a mustard colour, rather than using glittery, because you use an awful lot thread when you're doing stuff like this, so that would have cost a fortune. And also metallics are notoriously difficult to work with, and speed is of the essence because I need to get this done. So I'm just using my first stitch on my blanket stitch, and on this machine I can save favourite settings, so you'll notice the yellow here. What I've done is, if I go, this is the default setting, so it's 3.5, 2.5, and I wanted it slightly deeper than that, so hence why I've just taken that one up, and you can see this is the same depth. I didn't want that any longer, but what I wanted is to just spread it out a bit more. The smaller the piece that you're doing, the smaller this stitch length needs to be, really, the closer, and make it easier when you're going round curves. So I'm going to set that as a favourite stitch because I'm using that on an awful lot for this project, so I want to make sure that when I come onto this stitch to do more, I'm using the same stitch all the time, because I'm not going to get this all done today. I haven't got very long today to do it, so I want to make sure that's going to go right back where I want it. Don't rush. I'm on a straight edge here, so I can go a bit faster, but as I start coming in here, I'm going to really slow it down. Forwards, lift and turn. Over it goes, back over, turn. So always stop on the outside edge, so in this case the right hand side. Now I just wanted to show you how I'm finishing off these angels by doing the faces. So here is my little face that, as I say, I've used this method where I've used an interfacing. The link I'm going to put below for the longer video on how to do this technique. I've just drawn circles onto the interfacing and then stitched them round, and you put the interfacing on the right side of your fabric and then stitch your circle, then you trim it up, then you make a little slit in the interfacing so that you can turn it through, and it basically, I think you can see, look, it gives you almost like a needle turn. You get this really, I cut it to about 1/8 of an inch, so you get this really fine turned under, as I say, needle turn, but it means that you can stuff it. So I want to have that slightly puffy face, because look, when I do the eyes, they go in. So this is the last one here, so I'm going to pop him in place and then just use one pin to hold him there, and then start the stitching down, and everything happens, all the travelling happens underneath here. Let me just get you in place here. So I come up right on the edge here, and I'm going to go down through the back here in the same place, and then travel along just under 1/4 of an inch, and then the same again. But before I do that, I'm just rolling, using my needle to roll that interfacing under, and my thumb to hold it in place. And then, as I say, you're going straight back in where you've just come out of and travel along on the underneath. As I say, there's a much longer video on this in that link there on different methods. Pick which one you want, basically. There's another one using tin foil and ironing, which you might quite like for doing circles. To so make the hair, what I've done is I've just sort of done some very basic finger knitting of these 2 strands. So I've got the gold, it's like a crochet cotton, and I've mixed it with just an ordinary cotton. Crochet cotton is probably a double knit weight maybe, or an Aran, and what, about 6 to 8 inches there. Basically I'm doing enough to go 3 times, like so, just to give the angel his kind of curls. And I have used cotton deliberately because I do want to be able to wash this. It's a quilt, it's going to get used. Doesn't matter how untidy this is, to be honest. It was just a way of, you could do, look, pigtails if you wanted to, but I'm going with sort of full-on hair. So as I say, I've got my needle and thread already in, and then I'm just going to squidge it around until I'm happy with it. I want it to look like curls, really. That was the aim of it. And I'm going to stitch it all down, so if there's loopy bits or bits sticking out, it really doesn't matter, because I want to hold all of this down because it is going to get washed. So I'm just going to do a few stitches just to hold these roughly in place, because as you can see, it's difficult because you can't really pin them. And this thread won't be seen because it's going in. If you've got a slightly fluffier one, but I've gone for cotton because, as I say, I know there's going to be hot chocolates drunk whilst sitting under this quilt, hopefully. Hot chocolates with gingerbread syrup, maybe, marshmallows, squirty cream. Well, they will be if Nanny's making them, that's for sure. So I'm just going to keep stitching that until it's all down and, you know, nothing's going to go anywhere. So I've stitched this all down so it's nicely held. Finish that off at the back and then we can do the face, facial features, eyes and mouth. I've now changed to a top stitch thread because it's again it's cotton but it's much thicker, and I've doubled it because instead of doing beads or buttons or anything, I'm just going to do a couple of French knots. So mark them if you want beforehand. Once again though, and I'm sorry, I have to tell this one again, I'm winging it. Boom, boom. Sorry, that's way too. And pull it through, because as I say, that the fact that we've got this stuffed just gives slightly more shape to the face. So down to the mouth, and I'm going to give him a smile, so I'm going to go in that side and then back down to where I want, like the middle of the mouth. There we go. And again, pull that in, and look, it's got face. Cute. You can do eyebrows, you can do whatever you want here, but like I say, the important thing is just that wadding, giving you a little bit of shape, and then secure it off underneath. And that is all my angels on the border done. I still haven't worked out a way to get bells. Maybe they need bells around their neck. Yeah, I might do that. I'm still working on that. So there we go, border done. Just to let you know where I'm going after that is, once those borders are on, because the borders are exactly the same length as that center, I'm going to be short on each side. So the easiest solution to that is always what's known as a cornerstone. So I've cut 6-inch squares which can be added on to square it up again, and then I'm going to go on to this as another border print. If I can get it slightly wider, I will. And I can just, what I like about this one is this is going to be easy quilting, because I can just noodle along by hand in amongst the trees and things. So I think that will be quite nice to do, and maybe add some little French knots as the snowballs, or even little pom-poms. I might find some pom-poms to do, and then again a cornerstone possibly on this. I'll wait and see how I feel about it, but it will be one of these that what I've got left. I think I might have enough of that, in which case that will be the cornerstones for this one. And then I'm thinking a red border, and I might do something fancy with the border. Haven't made my mind up yet. I might go in search of some pom-pom trim to go in the border, because I think that would look pretty good, wouldn't it? And it is Christmas, isn't it? So anything goes. More is more. More is more.